Welcome to Enjoy Fort Wayne. This episode is brought to you by the Wailanai Farmers Market and highlights the 350 vendors that make up the #1 market in the state of Indiana.
I'm Lorie Gingerich,
And Robin Gingerich.
and our company is made by Mamaw Embroidery.
Okay, so how long has that been in existence?
3 years?
Yeah.
About 3 years.
Okay, I'll be honest, I thought you were going to say longer.
No.
So what did you guys do before?
Well, he is currently a postal worker. I'm a retired postal worker. I have been sewing since I was probably 10, 12 years old.
Wow.
And in 2016, we had our first granddaughter. And
And of course you have to.
Oh, yes.
right.
You gotta make something,
ruffles
right.
and lace and all that.
Of
but
course. That makes sense.
he had been encouraging me to buy an embroidery machine. And I just thought, I just retired. And so I went into Edwards Sewing Center. It's out on Rothman and Maple Crest Road.
Okay.
And I started out taking a class just to kind of up my sewing skills. Well, the more I got, created a relationship with that shop, and I started looking at the embroidery machines. And so it was a Saturday, and he was working, and I texted him, and I said, I think I'm buying an embroidery machine. And so he calls me, and I said, well, I'm not buying the top of the line. I'm buying the lower one. And he says, why? And I said, well, because I don't want to spend that money.
Yeah. You're trying to be frugal.
And in the end, I walked out with the higher end one.
You have something to do with that?
I did because what I told her.
I feel that's the...
Yeah, what I told her was I said, okay, you can start with a smaller one and outgrow it in 6 months, a year, whatever.
Yeah.
And if you get the larger one do you better and last you longer? And in essence, I think that's just what she decided. I mean, I wasn't there, but I kind of gave her, do what you need to do.
But you were okay with it?
I was okay with it, yeah.
Yeah.
So now the ladies out there at Edwards, they one of the owners, Lisa, she tells people this story, and she says, well, we have a customer whose husband says either go big or don't come home.
Which is...
And they tell this story all the time out there.
Because go big or go home
Yeah,
is
and
the
that's
phrase, right?
pretty much
But
what we do.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
Or don't come home.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, one thing led to another, and I wanted to get, these were all single needle machines.
Okay.
And I wanted to go to, the biggest one Edwards carries, a Janome, is a 7 needle. Well, by that time, we had gone through COVID, and supply and demand was not there, or
Sure.
demand was there, but not supply. So we started looking for used. We found a home-based company in Ohio that was just getting out of the business. And we ended up bringing home a 16-needle machine, industrial machine, with lots of extra, things that...
The bells and whistles.
All
was
the-
that?
and
all
the
the thread, all the
thread.
backgrounds, some blanks, that are what you stitch on, plus a 7 needle that they had. They were trying to get, they're just selling this as a package, plus a vinyl cutter, plus all the vinyl. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that they were selling off that we were purchasing, but we went there purchasing a machine to upgrade what we could, what our
We
capabilities
didn't realize
were.
we were going to upgrade ourselves into a business at that point. And
Okay, that's what I was gonna
what
ask.
Yeah.
happened.
Okay,
Yeah.
so your mindset wasn't necessarily like, okay, we're going to take this ball and really get it rolling
Right.
necessarily. So then tell us how that did then come about.
Well, because we were kind of in deeper than we thought, money wise and supplies and everything else, I started trying to get my name out there, and it was going pretty slow. We just really, I didn't have the marketing skills. So I signed up to do a plant swap out at Ambrosia. And so I made all kinds of tote bags and towels and everything that had plant designs on it. That got canceled because it stormed that day, and this was going to be outdoors. So now I said, what do I do with all of the stuff I made?
We
And
had a lot of stock from
So
that.
on a whim, I applied to the YLNI Farmers Market.
How'd you know?
Oh, I've been to, I as a customer.
Okay,
you
you
know,
would go down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So you thought, well, why don't I just see if this could be a thing and I can get a booth?
Yeah,
right?
and it's more like, okay, we'll try this and see how it goes, and sell off what stock we had, because we already
Yeah.
had the investment.
You had all
into
this extra
We need to
stuff.
try to sell it, and it's kind of a niche at that point because it was mostly plant based, but it was summer and it was a good time to do it. But it's like, okay, this is kind of your baby because it's on Saturday.
works.
I have to work that day, so whatever you can do to do it, fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead and see how it goes.
Hopefully it goes okay. Now, what year was this?
let's see, 2022.
Yeah, well, we're ending our second winter and going into our third summer.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was that first Saturday like for you?
Well, both my kids came with me to help set up. We had bought a canopy. We had some tables and some table covers, but as for display, we just really didn't have, what we really needed to. And so our
So
sales.
it's your first time.
Yes,
right?
Right,
we didn't.
no clue.
You don't know what
Yeah.
you don't know.
Right,
Right. Is part of
exactly.
it.
I mean, kind of my background outside of YLNI, I've been involved with going with my parents. They used to sell concrete things and whatnot back in Ohio, 30 years ago. So I'm kind of familiar a little bit with the festival atmosphere and how that sort of works. Every market's obviously different.
Sure.
So that was all nailed down. But as far as how to set up what we're doing and whatnot, we had the basics, just the basics to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we, after that first one, I started looking for, again, we are big on buying used if we can. And so grid wall and just different things to display. And so we really beefed up the look to our booth. And the other vendors were so helpful too. I would walk over to somebody else and said, does this work for you? Or where did you get your weights? Or how do you, and they were all so helpful, for a newbie, and at first I was going to do every other weekend because I didn't think I could sew enough to do it every week. And I originally said, once we get our name out there and maybe we get a couple of business contracts and some, bulk sales, then I won't be doing the market anymore. Well, I found out that I really love doing the markets.
Really?
I really do. And we're not so much into making quantities we will.
Of course.
And but we're more of a boutique type embroidery business. It's only he and I, and he still works full time, so we can't, produce, 500 T-shirts in a week. We can't do it.
Yeah, and we would have to have it pre-sold too in order to really do that. So we'd have to have the market come in, and we have had customers we would do that with, but that's not our goal necessarily.
So we changed our goal
Yeah.
about midway through, because there are some large embroidery companies. We live in Ossian, so there's some in Bluffton. There's in Fort Wayne, and they have just much more equipment and employees, and we can't compete with that. But I found out that there's someone wants a certain T-shirt in a certain color and a certain design, and he has a graphic arts background, so he can usually reproduce that image and into something we can stitch. So, and then we have, last winter about this time, we bought 2 more of those big machines.
Oh.
Yeah, drove to northern Michigan in the middle of a snowstorm, an ice storm.
Yeah, so
That's fun.
we brought those home. They were refurbished, and so we do have 3 machines. And
16 needle.
yeah, so
All of them are 16?
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
same brands of Melco brands. So
Wow.
nice machines.
So,
They're not new, but they're nice.
yeah. Would you say that when you look back now, that sometimes it's hard to believe where you've been, because you said you weren't assuming this was going to kind of, has it snowballed for you then, would you say, or?
It's not as much, well, at Christmas we were really busy, but not as much as, that we can't handle it, you know, and we're right in that sweet spot, and I've had to say no because I'm not going to stretch myself thin. Mm-hmm. And that I can't meet a deadline or something. So, we've kind of just found that sweet spot where, because he'll come up, he can stitch also. He keeps the machines up and running.
Do all the maintenance for him and everything needs to be done. So
yeah, of course. Yeah. Is he as good as you? Be honest now.
Well, I have more experience, I think.
I'll be honest. Yeah, no, she has a lot more experience because she has. I mean, I've sewn in the past, but I've never done embroidery until she got her first machine, and then I started doing some design work just for embroidery to see how that worked. And I've got some design. Should have brought a couple samples. I brought some designs that just to try to figure things out back then, and that's progressed. I've worked on that all along, and still do what's called digitizing in order to make the design for the machines.
Oh, okay,
so it's particular. It's not like you can take any file and do it. You have to
on the
always
computer
convert it.
kind of first. You have
you
to
always
like
have
set
to
it up,
convert it,
and then it makes sense. There's a lot that goes into it. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, I want to know what advice you would give someone who is looking to not only maybe become an entrepreneur the way that you guys are, but also to possibly they have something that would make sense for them to sell at the Waialae Farmers Market. What is some advice if someone is listening to this saying, man, I don't know if I can do it, XYZ, this, that. What would you say to them?
Just try it. Just, if you come out to the market maybe once a month or something and set up a table. We've had some very good entrepreneurs advising us. Talked to a couple of ladies at the Covington Art Fair one summer, and I said something about, well, I've got a very small business, and she said, don't discount yourself that way, because out of 100 people that say they're going to start a business, 5 might do it.
Maybe.
And you're one of them. Yeah. So that really changed the way I looked at it, and my passion, and I people come to my booth and they just, their eyes just open. That's embroidery. That's and
it's a good feeling.
That. Yeah.
Right?
So just at least start. That sometimes that's the hardest part, the hurdle, is just to get started.
Yeah, without getting your feet wet in some capacity, you're not going to know if you're ever going to try it, to do good with it. I feel like for us, we try things, they may not work. Okay, we regroup a little bit and try again. It doesn't mean that what we did is wrong, it just wasn't right then. So that may come back around, not necessarily style, but just it isn't the right time for that particular thing. And a lot of the things we do, we've been finding that there's not a niche of design, but a niche of what people are kind of wanting, which is kind of interesting. She's has a following there that's impressive, that I think other vendors do have. They have the same kind of following for their particular thing.
Yeah.
We just have a little bit of a following for our thing, which is great.
Right.
So.
No, you see all kinds of different followers of different vendors at the market. Yeah. What's your favorite thing about the Waialae Farmers Market?
Well, the vendors are always so helpful, and and I try to be the same way. And if I see somebody struggling with a canopy or a crate or something, I'm right there. The people that are drawn into our market, whether it's winter or summer or both, I just meet such great people, and some of them stop in every week, and they might tell me about their dog or their grandkids or something. You really get to know them.
Sure.
You just made a lot of friends between the vendors and the customers.
Yeah.
So.
It's all kind of like a family, most people say.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I see that too when I'm it's great for me as I kind of run the social media and getting pictures and just having conversations. It's equal to me with the vendors, you guys, and the customers. The interactions between both is always so awesome.
Right.
It's like, I don't know who I like more. Everyone is so great. It's like, it's just one big family
Yeah.
every Saturday.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
pretty positive group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really.
Overall,
Yeah.
amazingly, right?
I'm sure there's
For-
times out they're not.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I'm
with
only there like 10,
anything,
15 minutes
with,
during the day.
With any family dynamic, I mean, it's going to be that way. But overall, it's pretty incredible knowing that we have over 350 vendors.
Right.
They're not all there at one time, of
Right.
course.
Right.
It's like church, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's a lot. It's a lot of people to deal with. So we always like to give a shout out to Ashley. She does such a great job, right? Okay, so one of the last questions that I enjoy asking is not necessarily about your business. It's not necessarily about the market. It's and I don't know, have you guys, sometimes some people have seen what the last question is and sometimes they haven't. Have you seen, you know what's coming? But
I
he
did,
doesn't?
I did,
Or-
but I forgot.
Okay, that's fair. So should we make him
Yes.
answer then first? Because
Awesome.
so, and be honest, have you been thinking about this answer already then?
I babysit for my granddaughters all day, so after I'm done watching Peppa Pig all day, my mind has kind of gone to mush. So
Pepper Pig, that's a
Yes.
good one. Yeah. Any Blue's Clues in there? And
No,
no,
Bluey.
not today.
they have a
Not
new
today.
one, right? They have a new Blue's Clues guy or something.
really?
I've
Yeah,
heard.
yeah. So
I grew up on Steve, but I guess he's not there anymore. So here's the question.
Okay.
You guys are in Ossian, you said, right?
Yeah.
So who's the mayor? Do you know?
we don't have one.
Are you okay? I didn't.
we have
know if you
two
had-
stoplights, and
That's it. Okay,
Yeah.
so you still deal with the mayor here in Fort Wayne. So let's say that he sends you an email and says that they are commissioning a big sign that's going to go either on the highest of the highest building, or we're going to get the Fred Grody, plane to fly around a message.
Okay.
Okay, they're going to make a message that the entire area can see, and he wants you to write the message. So this is what I ask everyone at the end, and I'm just always fascinated by the way people's brains work, and sometimes they take it to what their business is, like, eat more chicken, if they're selling chicken, whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be, it can, but she kind of knew it, a little bit, but she's dealing with Pepper Pig.
Right.
But
right.
you had no clue,
Right.
and I'm curious. I want to start with you because I enjoy when they kind of don't know, and it's the raw, like, boy, because it's probably a good question. You weren't thinking of it.
Yeah.
So what comes to mind? You're in charge for the whole city to see.
Well, it kind of reminds me of something I did when I was in high school, but
See, it's always a good story. See,
yeah. So when I was in high school, you have the quotes for the yearbook.
Oh,
your
sure,
senior quotes.
sure.
So my senior
Stay
quote,
cool.
yeah, I mean, my dad was a school teacher, so I always have to be a little bit cautious.
Yeah.
But I was in theater, I was in a whole bunch of art stuff, everything. So mine was high school taught me how to fail with pride. And in that, in my head has always been that all of your, if you don't know that you can't do something, you can do it. So if your brain hasn't clicked to say, okay, you can't do this, or you haven't been taught that you can't do this, then there's no reason why you can't do it. I'm not saying law stuff, but just in general, if you can't do welding, that doesn't mean you aren't able to. It just means you haven't learned yet.
Yeah.
So something along that line How I would phrase it, that's a little questionable. But, trying to always figure out exactly what you want to do, what your passion is. And currently this is our passion, and that's probably going to stick around for a while because it's worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is probably the message, but there's not a single line. So I don't think the banner would probably go around the earth a couple of times.
Because it'd be so long.
Yeah. So you probably have a better
But
answer.
I would. You think he's on the right track though?
Yes,
I mean, that's
yes.
pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
All right, so you had a little tiny bit more time to maybe think about this.
I would just, as a message for Fort Wayne and in any area, is be more accepting. Accept people for who they are, for what they know.
What they don't know.
Yes, I mean, last summer I offered a lot of different stuff for Pride. And I had one lady come in and request a T-shirt that just said human across it. And I said, I love that.
Yeah.
And so I made it for her, and I made several more, and he's got one, and we wear them all the time, So, if you're going to label somebody, just label them human,
Yep. I like that.
Yeah.
She may have crushed that one.
Oh, yeah, better than me. Much better than me. But there's a lot of things she does better than me, so that's okay.
Like watch Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
Better even.
Yeah, that's true.
No, that's really great. You can see why I get to ask this question every week, I get different answers and just people's mindsets and all that. And I love that. I like what you said about the failure thing. To me, like, failing isn't failure unless you say, I'm picking up and going home and never going to do it again.
You stop.
Then you have failed.
Right.
But if you're learning how to embroider something and it doesn't go right on a Thursday, on Friday you're up at it again. So all you did was learn how to not do that thing. That's not a failure, in my opinion, then.
Well,
even though you'll say, oh, I failed at doing this today.
Right.
Yeah, but you're going to keep pressing forward, though.
And years ago, I, for myself, stopped telling myself that I failed at something. I just decided each time that that's a learning experience. I learned I don't want to do that again, so I'm going to learn something new and go this direction.
No question.
And it doesn't, it stops bringing you down.
And you wouldn't know until you tried it. And then you'd look back in 10 years where you're not maybe able to because of XYZ that happens. And you're like, I wonder what would have happened.
Right.
But you tried it. It didn't work. And now you know, okay, I'm not going to do that because I remember what that's like. I know we need to do this. Okay, well, that's a pretty good feeling then.
Yeah.
And all because of a quote unquote failure.
Right.
That's not,
You jump, you may not go that particular direction, but you go just a little askew of that and do this because maybe it didn't work this way, but something of it was better. Which reminds me of something like when Edison was doing the light bulb, he didn't come upon the filament that he used.
He failed a lot, didn't
He failed a ton. And because he failed a ton, he had learned that, okay, yes, this isn't right, but trying something else and trying something else and trying something else, eventually going through enough things to come up with the right thing. And those kinds of failures call them failures. Those kinds of iterations are important. Whether you iterate in your job, you iterate in life, or your what you're doing, doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. And probably iteration is a better discussion than failure.
Yeah, that's probably a better word. In our heads, we say failure, and it has that negative connotation, though.
But kids latch on to failure. Failure is what is, whether the other kid said, "Oh, you failed," or you're doing and you're up at bat and you strike out or whatever. Failure is never failure. Like you said, stopping becomes a failure.
Yeah, if you say I'm not doing this
never
anymore,
going to do that
quit.
again. Okay, I'll give you a perfect statement. I failed at skateboarding. I failed.
Fair.
I failed at skateboarding because I fell on my rear and knocked the wind out of myself and said, I'm never doing that again.
There you go.
That was a failure at skateboarding. That's fine. I'm okay with failing in skateboarding.
Ice skating.
Yeah, ice skating. That'd be another one.
My ankles, I couldn't do it. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm okay. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with not being able. I can roller skate. I don't need to ice skate.
I was really good at. I've never roller skated at all, but I was really good at ice skating when I was younger and heavier, but I was really good at that. Why? You see this large ball bearing running across the ice. It's not much fun.
Yeah.
But
no, but I like that you said that. That definitely resonates. If it resonates with me, it probably resonates with our listeners. So I appreciate that. Before we go, give us the rundown of where people can find you, either like social media, things like that.
We're on Facebook under Made by Mamaw Embroidery. My granddaughters call me Mamaw, so that's where the name came from. And Instagram.
Yeah. And we can be found at YLNI, obviously, during the summer months and the winter months.
Yep.
We have a permanent booth indoors right now. So
Yep.
winter's going to be over in April.
Someday.
Well, we'll see. It's the Midwest, so it's by the time they've started this podcast, by the time they've ended it, the weather could have
Be
changed.
different. Could be
So
70 right
we'll
now.
see. So yes, but every Saturday from 9 to 1, come to the YLNI Farmers Market as well to get some embroidery and maybe get the human. Maybe can they get a T-shirt or
kitchen towel or a
Love
bag or anything. We do a lot of different things.
I definitely like that. Human. All right. You heard it here first. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Thanks.
This podcast is brought to you by Coraggio Media. The show is edited by me and sponsored by the YLNI Farmers Market. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest updates. We will see you next week, where we will be sure to show you how you can enjoy Fort Wayne.